It's another beautiful day in the world of international diplomacy. The birds are singing, the sun is shining, and Donald J. Trump, international businessman extraordinaire, has his sights set on a new prize, the Panama Canal. That's right, folks. The man who thinks he can solve the Middle East crisis with a hotel and a round of golf now believes he can negotiate his way into owning one of the most important waterways in the world. And how does he plan to achieve this feat of geopolitical genius? Well, let's just say it involves all the subtlety and nuance of a Trump Tower opening ceremony. Buckle up, America. This is going to be a wild ride. Our story begins, as so many Trump tales do, with a phone call. Trump, loudly, into the phone. "Hello, Mr. President. It's Donald Trump, you know, from America. Listen, I got a great deal for you. A real win-win situation. See, I've been looking at this Panama Canal of yours." Now, most world leaders might hesitate before suggesting they could simply buy a sovereign nation's most valuable asset. But Donald Trump, as we know, is not one for most anything. He's a deal-maker, a negotiator, a self-proclaimed expert in all things business, and by golly, he's going to prove it to the world, one international incident at a time. The details of his offer are, shall we say, unconventional. Back in Washington, the news of Trump's latest diplomatic overture was met with, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly met with thunderous applause. Some called it unhinged, others downright delusional. But deep down, we all knew the truth. This was just another Tuesday in Trump's America. As the world held its breath waiting to see what fresh hell would be unleashed by this latest international incident, one thing was clear. Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, had set his sights on the Panama Canal. And when Donald Trump wants something, well, he usually finds a way to make everyone's lives just a little bit more interesting. Well, folks, it seems like the Panamanian president didn't quite understand the brilliance of Trump's proposal. Imagine that. The idea was so grand, so out of the box, that it left everyone scratching their heads. You see, Trump's vision for the Panama Canal was nothing short of revolutionary. He wanted to transform it into a luxury waterway, complete with Trump-branded yachts and floating casinos. But alas, the Panamanian president just couldn't see the genius behind it. But don't worry, our fearless leader is not one to be deterred by something as trivial as international law or basic common sense. No, no, no. When Trump sets his mind on something, he goes all in. He's like a bulldozer, plowing through any obstacle in his path. And this time, his path led straight to the heart of Panama. He's got a plan, a really, really bigly tremendous plan. A plan so huge it would make the Great Wall of China look like a picket fence. And this plan? It involves transforming the Panama Canal into the eighth wonder of the world. Picture this, a canal lined with gold, with Trump towers on either side, and a fleet of luxury yachts sailing through. And this plan involves more phone calls, more outlandish offers, and of course more Trump. He's on the phone day and night, wheeling and dealing, trying to get everyone on board. He's calling world leaders, business tycoons, even celebrities, pitching his grand vision. And every call is more outrageous than the last. Into the phone. Okay, so maybe the Trump Tower thing was a little too much too soon, but how about this? We make it a competition, a contest of ideas. But how about this? We make it a competition, a contest of ideas. Imagine the possibilities. We could have architects, engineers, and designers from all over the world submitting their ideas for the canal. The best idea wins, and we make it a reality. It's a win-win. The best idea for what to do with the canal wins. And the winner gets a lifetime supply of Trump steaks and a free stay at any Trump hotel. It's the deal of a lifetime. Ah yes, because nothing says serious international diplomacy like a hastily organized contest, judged by a man whose understanding of infrastructure begins and ends with building casinos. But hey, who needs experience when you've got confidence, right? And Trump has confidence in spades. He's convinced that his contest will not only solve the canal issue, but also bring the world together in a celebration of creativity and innovation. This is going to be good. So grab your popcorn, folks, because we're in for a show. The art of the steal is just getting started, and it's going to be a wild ride. Stay tuned. Now, any sensible leader, even one who throws international diplomacy tantrums over the phone, might consult with their advisors at this point. Get a little perspective, maybe a reality check or two. But Trump, as we've come to learn, doesn't really do sensible. He does impulsive, he does chaotic, and most of all, he does whatever the heck he wants. Waving a hand dismissively. Don't worry yourselves, folks. This is going to be huge. The best canal deal in history. We'll make it great again. Just watch. We'll call it the Trump Canal. And with those words, the Trump Canal was born. At least in Trump's mind it was. The rest of us were still stuck trying to figure out if this was all a bad dream or just another episode of As the World Burns. So, how do you drum up excitement for a contest nobody asked for about a canal you don't own with the goal of... Well, nobody's quite sure what the goal is, really. If you're Donald J. Trump, you do it the only way you know how, with all the subtlety and grace of a runaway parade float. And folks, they came running. From the far corners of the internet, the self-proclaimed geniuses, the conspiracy theorists, the folks who think infrastructure is a type of pasta sauce, they all wanted their shot at Trump Canal glory. Now you might think that even Trump, with his legendary attention span and even more legendary lack of impulse control, might start to question the wisdom of this whole endeavor. But you'd be wrong. Because in Trump's world, there's no such thing as a bad idea, only ideas that haven't been gold-plated and slapped with the Trump name yet. Hold on, I'm getting a great idea. We'll build a casino right in the middle of the canal. We'll call it the Floating Trump Taj Mahal. And so, with the fate of the free world hanging in the balance, the leader of the United States spent his days obsessing over a canal he couldn't buy, with ideas even a 5-year-old would find ridiculous. As the sun began to set on another day of governing, Trump, faced with the crushing reality that maybe, just maybe, he couldn't actually buy a canal with a half-baked idea and a Twitter following, decided to consult the only advisors he truly trusted, the voices in his head, amplified by the echo chamber of social media. Mr. President, you should build a wall around the canal, a really big, beautiful wall, and make Panama pay for it. Now there's an idea. And so, as the world watched in a mixture of amusement and horror, the great Panama Canal caper continued. But the question remained, would Trump ever realize that some things, even in the land of reality TV politics, just aren't for sale? So, the Trump Canal idea contest is officially underway, and the internet is already overflowing with, well, let's just say ideas is a generous term. But before we delve into the abyss of internet-fueled madness, let's check in on how our fearless leader is handling the more, shall we say, grounded aspects of his grand plan. Yes, folks, apparently there's a whole team of people whose job it is to explain to the President of the United States that, you can't just buy a canal like it's a new yacht or a struggling casino. They're using big words like sovereignty, treaties, and basic respect for international law, but it's no use. Look, I get it. You're saying it's complicated. But you know what else is complicated? Building a wall, a really big, beautiful wall. And did I let a few pesky details stop me? No, sir. And so, armed with nothing but his unwavering belief in his own deal-making prowess and a PowerPoint presentation full of more holes than Swiss cheese, Trump barrels forward, determined to bend reality to his will. We're gonna make this canal great again, folks. We're gonna make it bigger, better, more luxurious. And we're gonna do it all while making America great again. And with that, the meeting was adjourned, leaving everyone involved wondering if they were witnessing history in the making or just a slow-motion train wreck of epic proportions. Later that evening, perhaps feeling a twinge of guilt for ignoring his advisors, or maybe just bored with cable news, Trump decided to do a little research on the history of the Panama Canal. Now, we don't want to cast aspersions, but we're going to go out on a limb here and say that thorough historical analysis isn't exactly Trump's strong suit. Boring, boring, too many words. Ah, here we go. See, I knew it. This whole Panama Canal thing, it was all about America being great, just like me. And so, fueled by a potent cocktail of historical revisionism, wishful thinking, and a complete lack of understanding of how international relations work, Trump doubled down on his quest for the Panama Canal. But amidst all the chaos and confusion, one thing was clear. Trump, in his own mind, was already envisioning the grand opening of the Trump Canal. It would be the biggest, the best, the most tremendous canal the world had ever seen. A shining testament to his deal-making genius and a symbol of American dominance for generations to come. Of course, no Trumpian endeavor would be complete without a healthy dose of outside-the-box thinking, and the Trump Canal project was no exception. Gone were the stuffy experts with their talk of treaties and trade agreements. In their place were yes-men, sycophants, and people whose main qualification seemed to be that they once appeared on a reality TV show with Trump. Gesturing towards the whiteboard, "Now we're talking. Forget this boring old canal stuff. We're gonna have water slides, casinos, a golf course that goes right over the locks. It'll be fantastic." As news of Trump's latest pronouncements on the Panama Canal reached the international community, the reaction was, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly what you'd call positive. From Beijing to Brussels, from Paris to Panama City, people were left scratching their heads, wondering how the leader of the free world could be so, well, clueless. And yet, through it all, Trump remained undeterred, convinced that he, and he alone, had the vision and the deal-making skills to turn the Panama Canal into, well, whatever it was he thought he was turning it into. And so, as the sun set on another day in the age of Trump, the fate of the Panama Canal hung in the balance. Would Trump's grand ambitions come to fruition? Would he succeed in turning one of the world's most important waterways into a floating monument to his own ego? Voiceover. It's gonna be huge, folks. Just you wait and see. Tune in next time for the thrilling conclusion of The Trump Show. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, or at least the moment you've all been morbidly curious about, it's time for the main event, the Trump Canal Idea Contest. From the depths of the internet, from the far corners of reality TV, from that one uncle everyone tries to avoid at family gatherings, they came, they saw, they pitched. And folks, it was a sight to behold. All right, let's do this. Show me what you got. Remember, I'm looking for big ideas, huge ideas, something that screams Trump Canal. Little did these poor souls know they were about to enter a world where logic went to die, and common sense was about as welcome as a fact-checker at a Trump rally. We had proposals for canals filled with jello canals powered by hamster wheels canals that doubled as underwater casinos. Apparently that one was a recurring theme. We even had a pitch for a canal that wasn't actually a canal at all, but rather a giant water slide that would launch tourists directly into the ocean. The judges, bless their hearts, tried their best to follow along. But after the third PowerPoint presentation featuring animated dolphins wearing Make Canals Great Again hats, even their most valiant efforts at maintaining a straight face began to crumble. Through it all, Trump presided over the proceedings with the unbridled enthusiasm of a man who had finally found a way to combine his two greatest loves, reality TV and making decisions that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. The poor souls tasked with judging this cavalcade of absurdity deserve a medal, a stiff drink, and probably a year of therapy after this whole thing is over. I love it. You're hired. I mean, you're the winner. Or maybe not yet. We need more sharks and lasers. The judging criteria, like most things in Trump's world, were nebulous at best and completely made up at worst. It quickly became clear that the real winner of this contest wouldn't be the person with the best idea, but rather the person who could stroke Trump's ego the most effectively. After hours of pitches, presentations, and enough cringeworthy moments to fuel 1,000 memes, the moment of truth had finally arrived. Donald Trump, with feigned suspense, and the winner of the Trump Canal Idea Contest is Donald Trump, grinning. Me! That's right, folks. In a move that surprised absolutely no one, Trump declared himself the winner of his own contest because, well, why not? After all, who better to decide the fate of the Panama Canal than the man who once thought he could buy Greenland? Flush with victory, or at least whatever passed for victory in Trump's world, our fearless leader decided it was time to unveil his grand plan to the world. This was not just any plan, mind you, but a vision so grandiose, so utterly fantastical, that it could only have come from the mind of Donald J. Trump. Picture this: the Oval Office, usually a place of solemn decision-making, now transformed into a chaotic scene of fast food wrappers and half-empty soda cans. Trump, clad in a bathrobe, was pacing back and forth, phone in hand, ready to share his latest brainwave. Our fearless leader decided it was time to unveil his grand plan to the world, or at least to the one world leader who was unfortunate enough to be on the other end of the phone at that particular moment. The scene was set for a conversation that would go down in history, not for its diplomatic finesse, but for its sheer absurdity. With a flourish, Trump began to outline his vision. "And then we'll have lasers and sharks," he exclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. The world leader on the other end of the line, no doubt bewildered, listened as Trump continued to elaborate on his plan. "And a giant water slide that spells out Trump in gold lettering," he added, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "It'll be amazing, you'll see," he assured, his enthusiasm undiminished by the likely incredulity of his audience. Now, we don't speak Spanish, but we're pretty sure the words "completely insane" and "violation of international law" were uttered at some point during this conversation. The world leader, struggling to maintain composure, likely tried to steer the conversation back to more grounded topics, but Trump was having none of it. As usual, Trump remained unfazed by such trivial matters as logic, diplomacy, or the fact that his grand vision was about as realistic as a unicorn riding a roller coaster through a rainbow-colored sky. In his mind, the plan was flawless, a testament to his unparalleled genius. The world leader, no doubt questioning their life choices that led to this moment, likely tried to interject with reason and practicality. But Trump, ever the showman, was already on to the next part of his plan, detailing how the lasers would be powered by the best, most tremendous energy source you've ever seen. The conversation, if it could be called that, continued in this vein for some time. Trump, undeterred by the growing list of logistical and legal impossibilities, painted a picture of a future that was equal parts dystopian and fantastical. The world leader, likely at a loss for words, could only listen and hope that this was some elaborate joke. But as the minutes ticked by, it became clear that Trump was deadly serious. His vision, as outlandish as it was, represented his genuine belief in his own infallibility. The world leader, perhaps sensing the futility of further discussion, likely made their excuses and ended the call as diplomatically as possible. And so, the moment of truth, or something resembling it, came to an end. Trump, satisfied with his performance, likely returned to his fast food feast, convinced that he had just made history. The world leader, on the other hand, was left to ponder the surreal experience they had just endured, and the world continued to turn, a little more bewildered by the day. As news of Trump's latest diplomatic triumph spread across the globe, the world watched with a mixture of fascination and dread, wondering what would happen when the unstoppable force of Trump's ego met the immovable object of reality. It was a clash of titans, a battle for the ages. It was mostly just really weird. And as the world held its breath, waiting to see what fresh chaos would be unleashed by this latest episode of As the Trump World Turns, one thing was certain: it was going to be huge. Stay tuned for more mayhem. Don't miss the thrilling conclusion of our Trump Canal saga, where the stakes are higher, the ideas are crazier, and the consequences are, well, let's just say you don't want to miss this. Trump. Voiceover. We're gonna make canals great again, folks, believe me. See you next time on The Trump Show. Showtime at the canal, or how to turn a waterway into a reality show set. Well, folks, we're here in beautiful Panama, or as Donald J. Trump would like us to call it, Trump Canal Beta Testing Site number 1. And let me tell you, the man is really leaning into the whole reality show vibe. They've got cameras everywhere, contestants being primped and prepped by hair and makeup people who look like they wandered off the set of Toddlers and Tiaras, and enough security guards to rival a small nation-state. And at the center of all this glorious chaos, the maestro himself, Donald J. Trump, conducting this symphony of absurdity with the finesse of a man who thinks a trade war is something you win by slapping tariffs on imported cheese. The judges' table, where dreams go to drown our panel of judges, bless their souls, have clearly resigned themselves to their fate. They're nursing lukewarm coffee, exchanging weary glances, and occasionally scribbling something on their notepads that we can only assume are variations on the theme of "Get me out of here." But hey, at least they have front row seats to the greatest show on earth, or at least the greatest show that involves a man who thinks he can buy his way into owning a waterway that's been operational for over a century. Our first contestant of the day is a self-proclaimed human projectile who believes he can revolutionize canal travel by launching himself across the waterway. Because, who needs ships when you have a guy in a leotard willing to be shot out of a cannon? Well, that didn't go quite as planned. We'll give him points for creativity, but we're deducting points for, basic physics and a blatant disregard for personal safety. Our next contestant is a woman who claims to have solved all of the world's problems with a single revolutionary invention, the Jello Canal.
And because the Jello is non-Newtonian fluid, ships will be able to glide through it with minimal friction, thus reducing fuel consumption and carbon emissions. Plus, it'll be delicious.
We're not sure about the reducing emissions part, but we're pretty sure this is going to be a logistical nightmare for, well, everyone.
But what about the sharks?
Yes, what about the sharks? Our next contestant is a man who seems to have mistaken the Panama Canal for the Las Vegas Strip. He's pitching an all-you-can-eat cruise ship experience that's a nauseating blend of gluttony and globalization. The ship itself is a masterpiece of questionable taste. Think Liberace's yacht after a collision with a buffet car. And the best part is, the food never stops. We've got 24/7 buffets, chocolate fountains that flow like the mighty canal itself, and a team of pastry chefs who can build a replica of the Eiffel Tower out of spun sugar. Now that's what I call a business model. We could sell those hats, and those t-shirts, and those commemorative plates. We're not sure what's more terrifying, the cruise ship itself or the fact that someone thinks it's a good idea. After a day of ridiculous pitches, logistical nightmares, and enough questionable food to give the entire eastern seaboard food poisoning, it's time to choose a winner. But there's just one problem. It seems that none of the contestants have managed to impress the Donald, and folks, when Donald doesn't get what he wants, well, let's just say it's not pretty. Trump, shouting, "This is rigged, it's all rigged, these ideas are terrible, they're all losers. I could come up with better ideas in my sleep. In fact, Trump, you're a genius, you're hired, you're the winner." And so, in a stunning display of arbitrary decision-making, Trump declares a random audience member the winner of the Trump Canal Idea Contest. Coming up, the Trump Canal hits a snag, and it's not a cargo ship. But as the sun sets on another day of chaos and confusion, one thing is clear. Trump's grand vision for the Trump Canal is about to hit a snag. And this time, it's not a Jello-encrusted cargo ship or a disgruntled mermaid. Because back in Washington, people are starting to ask questions. Questions like, why is the Panama Canal filled with Jello? And who authorized the construction of a giant golden T on that hillside? Trump, voiceover. Fake news! It's all fake news! Tune in next time for the thrilling conclusion of our Trump Canal saga, where the laughs are fewer, the stakes are higher, and the consequences are, well, let's just say it's not going to be pretty. The walls are closing in and they're made of red tape. Well, folks, it seems like the party's over for the Trump Canal. Turns out you can't just waltz into a sovereign nation, start filling their most important waterway with Jell-O, and expect the rest of the world to just sit back and applaud your brilliance. The phones are ringing off the hook, the emails are piling up, and the international community is demanding answers. And let's just say that the dog ate my homework isn't going to cut it this time. It seems like reality, that pesky little detail that Trump has spent his entire life trying to ignore, has finally come knocking. And this time, it's brought a whole army of lawyers, diplomats, and environmental activists along for the ride. Trump Canal. The dream deferred, or more accurately, derailed. And so, the Trump Canal, that shining beacon of Trumpian ambition, that monument to the boundless possibilities of ignoring expert advice and embracing every ridiculous idea that pops into your head, has come to an end. The cameras are gone, the crowds have dispersed, and the only ones left are the cleanup crews, the lawyers, and the poor souls who are going to have to explain this whole mess to the history books. The canal, it seems, has survived another day. The same can't be said for Trump's ego, which has taken a bigger hit than a cruise ship buffet after a week at sea. Lessons learned? Don't hold your breath. In the world of politics, especially when it involves larger-than-life figures like Donald Trump, expecting rationality and predictability is often a fool's errand. The Trump Canal debacle is just one of many examples where grandiose plans meet the harsh reality of governance. It's a saga filled with twists, turns, and a fair share of absurdity. So, what have we learned from this whole Trump Canal debacle? Have we learned that political promises, no matter how grand, often fall short when faced with the complexities of real-world implementation? The Trump Canal was supposed to be a game-changer, a symbol of American ingenuity and determination. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of overreach and hubris. Have we learned that maybe, just maybe, there are some things that even a billionaire reality TV star with a Twitter account can't buy? Money and influence can only take you so far. At some point, the laws of physics, economics, and international relations come into play. The Trump Canal was a stark reminder that not everything can be achieved through sheer force of will or a catchy slogan. Have we learned that international diplomacy is not a game show, and that the fate of nations shouldn't be decided on a whim based on whatever harebrained scheme pops into Donald Trump's head? Diplomacy requires nuance, patience, and a deep understanding of global dynamics. It's not about who can shout the loudest or make the most outrageous claims. The Trump Canal project, with its lack of foresight and planning, was doomed from the start. And that the fate of nations shouldn't be decided on a whim based on whatever harebrained scheme pops into Donald Trump's head? The world watched in a mix of amusement and horror as the Trump administration pushed forward with the canal project, ignoring expert advice and international concerns. It was a classic case of putting the cart before the horse, with predictable results. If you're Donald J. Trump, the answer is a resounding no. The man who once claimed he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters seems to believe that his charisma and bravado can overcome any obstacle. But reality has a way of catching up, and the Trump Canal was no exception. Despite the setbacks, Trump remains undeterred, always ready with another bold, if not entirely thought-out plan. In fact, we're willing to bet that as we speak, he's already brainstorming his next big project, his next attempt to bend the world to his will. Whether it's a new infrastructure project, a bold foreign policy move, or another controversial executive order, Trump is always looking for ways to leave his mark. His supporters see him as a visionary, while his critics view him as a reckless disruptor. Either way, he remains a force to be reckoned with. His next attempt to bend the world to his will, his next surefire plan that's destined to go hilariously, spectacularly wrong. The Trump Canal may have been a failure, but it won't be the last of its kind. As long as Trump has a platform and an audience, he'll continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, often with unintended and comical consequences. His next surefire plan that's destined to go hilariously, spectacularly wrong. From the failed Trump University to the controversial travel bans, history is littered with examples of Trump's ambitious projects that didn't quite pan out. Yet, each failure seems to embolden him, fueling his desire to prove the naysayers wrong. The Trump Canal is just another chapter in this ongoing saga. Trump, voiceover, and will build a wall around it. A big, beautiful wall. The infamous wall along the southern border was another grand promise that faced numerous challenges and controversies. It became a symbol of Trump's presidency, representing both his determination and his divisiveness. The Trump Canal, much like the wall, was a bold idea that ultimately fell short of its lofty goals, and will make the moon pay for it. This line, though humorous, captures the essence of Trump's approach to politics. Grand promises, often lacking in detail and feasibility, delivered with confidence and flair. It's a style that resonates with his base but leaves many others scratching their heads. The Trump Canal was a perfect example of this approach, ambitious yet impractical. And so the beat goes on. Until next time, folks, stay tuned. In the ever-evolving world of politics, one thing is certain. There will always be another headline, another controversy, and another grand plan. As we watch these events unfold, it's important to remember the lessons of the past and approach the future with a healthy dose of skepticism and humor. Stay tuned, because with figures like Trump, the show is far from over.